supersets, optimizing time in the gym, and like we had before, we have the video reaction there, and then when you get
This is
to the
not my
research
seat.
paper, that's on the bottom.
Oh, I hate this seat. Like, makes me dizzy when I sit in it.
That was a seat that was there for you.
It's like tilted weird. I wanted to keep my stopwatch on with my mustache. I feel like a coach. I'm just here to make fun of the gym teacher. So let's talk about some big time supersets. This is an interesting topic too because one, I think it's just pertinent across all realms of training. I think it's important for world-class athletes. I think it's important for general population. I think it's important for younger athletes, and I think there's a whole bunch of different reasons behind it and why. And I think that right when I start to think about supersets, the biggest thing that I look at off the bat is looking at supersets are going to have sort of like three different umbrellas. So you got the strength supersets, you got size supersets, and then you've got performance-based superset. Okay, and I know that they're all going to sort of feed one another. But if we're looking at specifically from those supersets, the thought process of, okay, what would be, a size-based superset? That could be rest 30 to 60 seconds and you go hit an antagonistic muscle, right? So that could be based around, a real easy one would be like dumbbell bench into pull-ups. That could be size-based work, or bicep curl and a tricep pushdown. Good example right there. The next example, the third Mario bro. The next example would be, I got to tell Sanderson that because he's hardcore into Wario or Mario and Wario. The next example for a strength-based superset could be, all right, let's use an example of like a bench press. Okay, so if you're doing bench and let's say you're hitting 6 doubles, right? And you want to ramp up, one of the things that you can do for a warm-up is do like simple band pull-aparts or dumbbell external rotation, something lighter so that you're waking up the antagonistic muscles, and it can, in theory, help with your recovery from the prime set, which is the bench press. And then once you get around like the 5th set and the 6th set, you pull out the easier sets, and now you're just hitting just the bench press. So that's like an example of how you could use strength, a strength superset. The performance-based superset would be more along the lines of like a garage strength contrast or traditional contrast methods where we might do, let's think about a front squat into a hurdle hop. Okay, that's a traditional contrast, or a front squat into a dumbbell drop snatch to a box, right? So that's a garage strength contrast. Or also, if we're doing a front squat, here's a good one with an ab roller or an ab wheel. This is something that could be performance-based for younger athletes to get them to use their trunk a bit more when they're front squatting. So I think looking through the lens of supersets are going to have three essential. There's like the umbrella of the superset, right? Then there's going to be three things that you sort of pull off of that. And then each one of those is going to have the differentiation and when you would use it, what age are you using it, how frequently are you using it, and how they build up over time. So I think that's just something that I like to think through when I'm programming them. Now, what are specific ways to get an effective workout in under 45 minutes? That's where we're going to go in with a lot of this stuff, is that I think that if we're looking at total volume, okay, and in most cases, especially with research, we're going to see that if total volume is equated and the rest periods are manageable, by the time adaptation occurs with these rest periods, you're going to be able to handle the volume in a shorter time frame, and you're still going to have a lot of ability to recover and gain strength. And so I think that equation or having the equitable amount of volume and then using it logically or using it creatively with supersets can then lead to better performance and better strength increase over a long period of time. Now, how do I program them effectively? I think that if I'm looking at a a younger kid. Okay, so let's work through the whole process, right? If I'm looking at a younger kid, the best way that I think I like to use actual supersets is just right off the bat. We'll superset everything. And the biggest reason that I see this as an effective angle is that if I've got a kid in 7th grade, 8th grade, when they're pressing, let's say using the bench press example, even if we're doing like chest rows or pull-ups, I will see them then use their back more when they're benching. They will flare out less. They'll hold more tension. They'll be able to handle the recruitment on the eccentric at an effective rate and then drive up rapidly. And the big aspect is that when you're using something like the bench press, if they're doing those pull-ups, they awaken their nervous system a little bit further. There is also some research that will say that if you're doing a prime mover, so let's say you're doing a press and then you're doing the antagonistic muscles. So in this case, we would be using the lats or the traps or whatever. One of those things, or one of those, some of these papers will also show that there can be an improved recovery from the agonist muscle that you're training. So in this case, the bench, the triceps, the pecs, shoulders. So it's an interesting thing, especially with younger kids. The other big aspect with the younger kids that we'll train is that, okay, so one, we're going to use it just to increase their recruitment pattern, to have better feeling. The next thing that we're going to use supersets for is to teach them how to handle a large amount of volume. So the first 8 to 12 weeks that we get guys in the gym, that we get younger kids into the gym, if we have a girl that comes in and she's in 7th grade or 8th grade, we are throwing a ton of volume on her to, one, get her to realize this is going to be hard. This is going to be a very hard thing. And we want you here for 4 years, 5 years to become a champion. And you've got to deal with a lot of volume in our training system. And so it's one of those things that sort of weed people out. It's all right, well, this is a really hard workout. You've got to deal with this. It's going to be very challenging. And then that's another little thing that we use. Now, as we get into high performance, I like to look at supersets or breaking down timing of a workout into, in this case, how I program them supersets effectively would be, all right, if I have exposure phase or comprehension phase, we're going to be in a higher volume phase. So in this case, most of the supersets we're going to plan are going to be based around size-based principles. Okay, so a shorter rest period, larger compound movements. We're going to use a lot of supersets with isolation movements later on in the program, later on in the workouts, still having shorter rest. We might use trisets quite a bit as well. That's another thing. We do like to use trisets quite a bit. So that's the one thing there. And then we go into the ascension phase and the summit phase. And then that's where we might go into more strength-based supersets or more performance-based supersets, especially if we're working with high school kids. Then as we work through and we get to somebody who's a collegiate, post-collegiate athlete, let's say they're training for the Olympics, exposure phase, comprehension phase is when we're going to use strength and size-based principles, okay? Then as we get into something like let's say once we would get into the end of the ascension phase going to the summit phase, we might just use, so during that time frame, we're going to use performance-based supersets. And then at the end, we might pull out all supersets because we're trying to get them to go extremely heavy. So I think it's very dependent upon the time of the career, how long the athlete has been training, what they're doing, and things like that. Now, I wanted to go even further. And what are some common mistakes then if somebody's doing supersets, or if they're a limited time, they have a limited amount of time to work out. So let's say you have 30 to 40 minutes to train, right? If you have 30 to 40 minutes to train, some of the things that I see is they might not know how to use, so here's a good example. If I have 30 or 40 minutes to train, and I'm in a scenario where, let's say I want to do 2 big sets, and I'm going 2 big sets of 4 exercises each. So I'm actually going to do 8 exercises in 40 minutes. And I will do mechanical drop sets. Okay, so that's like a another step off of that superset umbrella. Now, a mechanical drop set might be I do a rope climb into a chin up, into a reclining row, into a bicep curl. And so each one gets progressively easier. You can also reverse that order, but that would mean I'm doing 4 row/back bicep exercises. Then the second part of the workout would be all chest, shoulders, and triceps. So I might do, let's say, dips into dumbbell bench, into clap push-ups, into tricep pushdown. Okay, so you can see like the mechanical drop set sort of progression there. And that would be 2 big sets used essentially as a superset. And so I think some of the mistakes I see, though, is not just thinking through and planning that out. They're just throwing stuff against the wall. They're bouncing from machine to machine or exercise to exercise, and no one really knows, what they're actually doing in the workout. Yeah, they might get their heart rate up to 120 for 45 minutes when they leave, but really they're not accomplishing anything, and they're just sort of meandering around their training session and not having a specific goal. So I think that it really, really comes back to planning out what those supersets are going to look like and how you're going to use them effectively as you're building out. Now, I wanted to get into some of these. We've got some discussions on supersets. I've got some old school videos that I want to look at from the channel, but also I wanted to look at Mike Israetel has a whole like analysis on alternating supersets, which I think is pretty cool. So I want to look at those and see what you guys think here. Let's see. So if we can think about what is a superset, let's use an example like the bench press, okay? So if we're gonna be supersetting, almost always, I would say 85 to 90% of the time, we're gonna be supersetting 2 exercises together. So there's gonna be a prime mover, a prime focus. So let's say, in this case, it's the bench press. So we'll have the bench press, and now what I like to do this video only has 4,700 views. It's from 3 years ago. God
muscle
damn it.
Group, or an exercise that's going to help recover from the bench press. So it could be 2 different exercises. If we're trying to increase volume and we're trying to lead to, maybe it's bodybuilding, anything along those lines, we would pair pull-ups with the bench press. If we can think about it, we're dealing with bench press. It's going to be the anterior chain with your upper body, a lot of pecs, a lot of shoulders, a lot of triceps. So now if we get to the posterior chain, we're going to be working with a lot of lats, more rhomboids, a little bit of rear delts. So this is how you would pair a supersetted situation. Now,
yes, that fat bar did come from Elite FTS.
The actual performance of
anybody else watch that Elite
pull-ups
FTS
might
podcast?
be a little bit more taxing to increase your bench, unless you're only doing doubles or triples and you're getting about 2 to 2.5 minutes rest. I would recommend, if you're going to try and increase your bench press, you actually do something very simple like a hammer curl. Okay, so let's say we do a bench press for a set of 5. Real heavy set of 5. Now we're going to rest about a minute. We're going to go over, we're going to do hammer curls for 8 to 10 reps. Okay, then after those hammer curls, we're going to try and rest for about 2 minutes before we get back onto the bench press.
So you this sort of see what that means there. Now, if we look at what Dr. Mike is saying from RP.
I'm Dr. Mike Israetel for Renaissance Periodization. This week's weekly tip, short little tip to help you guys train, diet, recover, so on and so forth, is trying the technique of alternating supersets. Alternating supersets to save time in the gym. What the hell are these and why are we trying them? Well, if you're in a rush, let's say crazy traffic, you got a date with your pretend girlfriend at 7:30 p.m. You're supposed to come home and shower by 7 so you can make the date at 7:30. Normally you start your workout at 4:30 and have plenty of time. This time, crazy traffic, and you started your workout 45 minutes late. What? That means you might have like half an hour to work out or not at all. Now, here's the thing. It might seem like good training is completely impossible, and you're just like, well, fuck it. I just drove to the gym for no goddamn reason, turning around, driving home, and then I'm going to shower and shave and sit down to the date, and your pretend girlfriend's going to be like, so, like, what are you up to today? And you're like, damn it, I didn't get to train.
I'm actually going to show you guys, too, what we do.
You stab yourself in the eye. She starts yelling. People don't know what's going on. The restaurant staff is crazy. The police show up. You're in a psych ward for the rest of your life. We don't want this to happen. So we have a better idea. You can get much
This is how AG1
All right,
works
so
to deliver foundational
I
nutrition.
think you could
that's
see where he's
useful.
going. I know we're getting fed here with an ad. Let's see if we
Great,
skip
too.
this quick and then
Matching-
get into this.
benefit, not all of it, in a tiny fraction of time by just switching the script on how you do your training. Instead of your usual plan, you might want to try what we call alternating supersets. Here's what you do. You pick 2 exercises at a time that are antagonistic or non-overlapping, which means none of the muscles used in one exercise is heavily or at all used in the other exercise. So that while one exercise is being performed, the other
Alternating
exercise's muscles
supersets.
are resting to get ready to go again. So for example, just examples, squats and incline presses. You don't really use any of the muscles you do one for the other. Curls and lateral raises, pull downs and leg presses. These are odd combos, right? And you can do these with any muscles that don't overlap, don't intersect. Here's how you do it. You do the first exercise. Let's say it's squats. You do squats, usually a higher rep set, close to failure, rack. Take only 30 seconds of rest, and that includes...
I think this is where he's going to, is like one of the interesting parts is that these are pretty wild superset thoughts, right? Like back squat into a pull-up, I think is what he was saying, or even like a curl and a lateral raise. And I think the biggest mistake in this case, so a lot of people will say, like, if I don't have an hour and a half or 2 hours to train, I'm not going to train at all. And in this case, by what I'm seeing, Mike saying, look, why not go and do a high rep set, rest 30 seconds, do another, you do a back squat, you rest 30 seconds, then you do a seated row or whatever, you rest 30 seconds to 60 seconds, and then you get back in and you squat again.
You racking the weight, walking over to the incline, sitting down, looking at your watch or your cell phone. As soon as 30 seconds expires, unrack, incline, and go. Do a high rep set of incline presses. Rack, 30 seconds of rest, hit squats again.
I think the biggest part here too is that people just struggle to hold themselves accountable to that rest time. And dude, the weirdest part, he's talking about this with the 30 seconds. The weirdest part is that I'm doing a warm up. I wanted to show you guys with the update on the app here. And I wanted to see if you guys want to see this here. I had the time clock rolling. Okay. And it actually went out while Dr. Mike was talking. And I am wearing 2 watches right now, and it rang on my Garmin like your rest period is up. And I think that's the whole thing, is that if you're, for what we're doing in peak strength is when we do, we have a squat with a glute ham sit up. Okay. So you do the glute ham sit up, then you go back to that squat, and then you have the rest periods. Okay. So you have the rest periods here that you can look at that clock going down. The biggest thing is following the rest time. And so if you're stuck in this, to use Dr. Mike's scenario, you have a date with your imaginary girlfriend at 7:30 and you didn't start working out till 6:15, and you need to shower between 6:50 and 7:15, so that you have 15 minutes to then drive to your fake date. If you use the supersets and you follow through with that time period, the rest period has to be specific. Okay, if you have the rest period and you're focused on it, it will enable you to still get a good workout. And the best part to think about is that, let's say if you're just like, I only have 30 minutes, I'm not going to train, versus, well, I've got 30 minutes, I might as well go train. And then you get 30 minutes of a workout done, that carries you for another day or two. And the biggest thing that people forget is like, just doing something is better than doing nothing. And that's in what you're going to do is using something like what Dr. Mike's saying with the alternating supersets. All of a sudden you're like, wow, this workout's really tough. I should do this like once a month. I could do this twice a month. This would be crazy if I did this on a regular basis. And so I think that's like one of the unique parts, is that try to get creative with it. And you're going to notice that over time, you're going to start to feel quite a bit better. I did not mean to do that while I was still on this. I'm going to try and move my thing over here, but I want to get back into this aspect first. And I think that it's just like it's a big facet of training that we overlook, is like, it's not always going to be this perfect workout. Why is that not doing that? If we go here, that's weird. If I go here, Something happened there. Okay, so let's go back. And actually, this just buzzed again. My peak strength timer just went off on my watch. Rest complete. Time to start your next set. So that's on my phone. New personal record. I wanted to just show you guys that. Okay, so if we look at this study, okay, no time to lift, designing time-efficient training programs for strength and hypertrophy. So this is a really good paper from Iverson. Brad Schoenfeld's in there, one of the GOATs. And basically, if we're thinking about oftentimes people, and here's the actual hard copy right here, okay? So people will say, I can't work out. I don't have time. We actually have people in our gym that work at the gym that say they don't have time. Lack of time is among the more commonly reported barriers for abstention from exercise programs. And so what's interesting is that they go into this and they say, okay, what can we do if we have a time restraint, right? We're running out of time. What can we do? Step one, just warm up specific to the exercise that you're going to do first, okay? You don't need to do a general warm-up, do a specific warm-up, okay? When programming strength training for optimum time efficiency, we recommend prioritizing bilateral, multi-joint exercises that include full dynamic movements, eccentric and concentric, and to perform a minimum of one leg pressing exercise, so squat, one upper body pulling exercise, pull-up, and one upper body pushing exercise, bench press. This can be performed with weights, machines based on training goals, availability, and personal preferences. Okay, so weekly training volume is more important than training frequency, and we recommend performing a minimum of 4 weekly sets per muscle group. I'd recommend 10 to 15, using a 6 to 15 rep max loading range. So 15 to 40 reps can be used if training is performed to volitional failure. So these are some advanced techniques then. Okay, they go into drop sets, they go into supersets, they go into rest pause training. Roughly halves training time compared to traditional training while maintaining training volume. I was even going to say one thing that we've been thinking about that, bringing up some of the training efficiency stuff is that when you have training efficiency and you're using something like myo reps, you could get a squat workout in 15 minutes and be gassed, be totally gassed. Like, that was a really, really freaking hard warm-up or workout. It could even be a 5-minute warm-up on the squat. Then you do a myo reps workout and you work out for 10 to 15 minutes, and all of a sudden you do that twice a week. It's like, wow, I'm only working out for 30 to 60 minutes a week for my legs, and I'm still getting really strong because of that tension. So 33% listen to you. You were on Table Talk? Oh, come on, guys. Whoa. Okay, so if we get into this, however, these methods are probably right here. These methods are probably better at inducing hypertrophy than muscular strength. I would tend to disagree with the myo reps to a point. More research is needed on longitudinal studies. Finally, if you're short on time, restrict your warm-up to exercise-specific warm-ups. Only prioritize stretching if the goal of training is to increase flexibility. If the goal of training is to get swole, you don't need to stretch. This review shows how acute training variables can be manipulated and how specific training techniques can be used to optimize the training response. Time ratio in regard to improvements in strength and hypertrophy. When it all comes down to is that we should just be smashing, getting in, getting the work done, and getting out. And I think that that's one of the biggest factors that we forget about when we're crunched with times. We would rather make excuses for why we can't train instead of find excuses for why we still can train. So I can't believe how fast the new update is on peak strength. So, before we get any further, just so you guys know, we did release this brand new update to the app, and it is freaking fast. Let's see if we can get this on screen. Look at how quickly that is. And here we go, double at 4:05. Let me just click on there, and then let's say boom right here, and you can see this bar here also has a tooltip which tells you what this tooltip means. Okay, so what this means here, I'm trying to show you up on the screen there. You can start to see all of this description there. It's freaking sweet. It's fast, and it's, I think, freaking awesome. I'm going to log this set. There we go. Get me into some of those Cossack squats, my favorite exercise for my lower back. So now if we get into that, you guys can head over to peakstrength.app, the Google Play Store or the Apple iOS Store. You can check that out. You can pick it up for 5 free workouts. All right, let's get into some of these questions. I think Mobility helps with capability for technical lifts, 100%. And I think that was something that last week when we went over mobility, I didn't use like the umbrella scenario that I did for the supersets today, where it was like, okay, you got supersets, there's going to be a strength, a size, and a performance-based superset, essentially, right? If you're looking at mobility, there's going to be passive, there's going to be active, and then there's going to be exercise-based. Okay, so meaning, and everything's exercise-based, but training-based. So there's going to be active would be you're doing like a body weight squat, or you're cranking, or you're doing your foam rolling. Maybe you're doing some roller work for your upper back. The next thing would be you're going to do some type of passive flexibility work. Okay, so you're just doing static stretching and you're handling that static stretch. That's fine. The third thing that I'm talking about would be if I'm in a training session, so training mobility. If I'm doing a pause squat, pause back squat for 3 seconds, sitting in the hole, I prefer zombie squats over Zercher squats. If I'm sitting in the hole for 3 seconds and then driving up, I'm getting mobility work done while still getting stronger. Okay, if I'm doing a close grip snatch or a push press into an overhead squat, I'm getting strength work done while at the exact same time still getting some mobility work done. And I think that's if we're remembering, a lot of the stuff around mobility from last week is it's going to go back to there's an active, there's a passive, and then there's an actual training session point to mobility work. And the big factor then becomes if I'm more mobile, one, I can lengthen my muscles more. If I can lengthen my muscles more, I will have higher rates of coordination. I'll have higher motor unit recruitment. Okay, so that's a physiological aspect. On top of that, if I'm a sprinter, let's say, if I have a longer stride because I'm more mobile in my hips, okay, guess what? I'm very, very likely if I have longer stride, I'm going to cover more ground. And if I have fast turnover, I'm going to be faster. If I can get deeper let's use the 5-10-5 as an example for football players. If I have a football player that can sink lower on the 5-10-5 shuttle, they can get out of cuts a lot faster than the individual who has really high hips and can't cut rapidly. That's where the mobility comes into play. Okay, so hey boss, I have a question. I focused on the gym for the last 2 years. I've eaten right. I sleep at 8 hours, calorie surplus, train really hard. I've gained like 20 pounds of muscle. That's great. Is it possible for that my metabolism doesn't allow me to build more? No, Bruno, what I would say is try to figure out, how much of that was muscle mass and how much bigger do you want to get? How much weight do you want to gain, and try and figure out what's your, how many calories are you burning on a daily basis? Why do I prefer zombie squats over Zercher squats? I've always felt Zerchers can put your biceps at risk. It can also sort of screw with your entire joint capsule and your elbow. I also think zombie squats help more with like a vertical jump. It help more with a dip and a drive on the jerk. You can't fail. Like if you dump your chest on a zombie, you're going to fail. Whereas on the Zercher squat, I can still lean forward and have poor trunk control. And I think that's my big factor, is that you've got to have really good trunk control in the zombie squat. That would be my answer for Zach. Now, getting into this, let's see. Sometimes the weight showed is ridiculous high for me. Okay, so sample, you're doing mobility work, sleeping well enough, it'll get dialed in within a month or so. Let's see. Sometimes my accessories, yep. So what program should I run for power building? Off your phone during rest periods. There you go, Andrew. Best program for power building. I was going to lean on the athletic fitness inside of Peak Strength. I really like that. If you click on the muscle portion of of the athletic fitness portion, I also think that even just going in and clicking like football linebacker program is a great one for power building. I think that's another interesting one, is like if we're looking at power building, like are we doing powerlifting and bodybuilding? Are we doing like I want to be explosive and power and bodybuild at the same time? Or am I doing like weightlifting training and bodybuilding? Like there's like 4 versions of the of that we have to come up with. Are body types real and scientifically proven? I think they're scientifically proven? I haven't ever really researched that much. I could try and check that out right now. I've never really gotten into body types. I'll check it out right now. But I don't really think some of that stuff. Using traditional typologies to understand posture, movement, and cognitive performance. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. RP improvements are nice in the app. Yes, I think that they're a very good addition, Andrew. I think it's like one of those things that it helps you understand like how hard something is that you put in, how many reps should you be having in the tank, or how many reps did you not have left in the tank. And I think ultimately a lot of the stuff that we're just trying to do is take what the feedback is that you guys are giving us, and then lead into that updates. And that's where, again, like when we're looking at that the speed performance stuff, it's like we know that's a priority. We know that the speed aspect is something that we really, really need to step up, and we did it. Like I freaking think we slam dunked it. Gym sessions are 2 to 3 hours. I spent the first 15 minutes doing primer, an hour and a half doing the actual workout, and the last 30 minutes on skill work. I think 10 to 15 minutes as a warm-up is okay. It depends on how intense the actual workout is. I think you can do that in a reasonable sense. I think the actual meat rambler of your workout, I think for me, I would recommend like maybe 70 to 75 minutes, and then you have some either injury prevention or skill work. That's sort of how I would lay that out. But I don't know why your skill work's at the end. I would do skill work earlier. What's the minimum age for you to reach peak bodybuilding potential if you're natural? The minimum age? 26, 27, maybe. Dude, you got to put in a lot of work to get to that point, though. Like, lots and lots of work. I think that's like the one thing, too, that the ideal workout might be 3 hours. That's true. I think that the realm of bodybuilding, and I think that Earl actually brought this up where he sort of talked about people, if somebody is using anabolics, right? So let's say somebody's on anabolics. People will still engage with some influencer who's on anabolics because they can justify in their head like, oh, well, they're on anabolics. I'll never attain that, but I'll still watch what they're saying, blah, blah, blah. And the interesting part here is like, if we, with our athletes, nobody, we're all drug tested. All the athletes here are drug tested. All of the athletes are drug tested on a regular basis if they're in the testing pool. If they're good enough to be in the testing pool for USADA, they get drug tested. And where I'm connecting this to this question about how big can you get naturally is it goes back to like people get frustrated that they see someone as big as Sam or somebody as, let's say, even if we've talking about a thicker kid, or even Swole Kyle, one of our guys here is a power lifter. It's like, I was thinking about Taman too. These guys that are just huge. They're jacked, right? They're absolutely massive, jacked guys. You think about Haley, how jacked Haley is, right, too. And you're looking at it like, well, they claim she's not on drugs, but I don't know if it's possible for me to get to that point. And I think the downfall here is like looking at this question of, how long does it take to reach full potential? Dude, it takes a dozen years. It takes a decade. It takes so long, so many hours of hard work that like a lot of people don't want to put that in because they don't want to commit to that long-term grind, I guess. I don't know where I'm going with that. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Lower level plyo sprints like falling sprints, get up sprints, shadow boxing. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so Regis doesn't understand or doesn't know 17. And so Regis, the reason why I choose 17, if we're doing drop sets of like a 12 to 15 reps, I'll throw 17 up there. This was a football number for one of our athletes who died of brain cancer. So it's sort of like a tribute to him and just like a memoriam for his legacy and who he was as a person and how we still want to pass that on to the next level of people. Let's see, sample stuff. 7th grade squat, BP goals for bench press goals for 8th grade season. 190, 5'6", O-line, current squat 225, bench press 135. By the end of 8th grade, or 220, what if you did 225 and 300? 225 and 300. And Andrew just brings something up here. Andrew, I don't know if you saw my comment on the one Instagram post of the North Korean hitting a 125 clean and jerk and 49K lifting. It's like, so this team, no one's going to the Olympics from that team. Nobody. Because they refused to show up when it mattered, and now they're just magically going off. They're just magically hitting these massive totals. Massive totals. It's like, come on. And then like we're celebrating it. We're celebrating like North Koreans as though they're these phenomenal lifters. It's like, dude, you kidding me? You think these guys are clean? Like, stop. Stop celebrating them. Stop going on and that. Like, that stuff drives me insane. And maybe that's me just being negative. I'm in California right now for traveling. Do you have any tips for packing stuff and finding open gyms to do for maintaining fitness? For example, someone traveling to do an Oli lift or Oli meet. I think the biggest thing for me when I travel is I'll Google where I'm at a week ahead of time, and I'll literally look at the Google Maps, and then I'll try and find gyms. And it's like, I might type in CrossFit gyms, Reading, Pennsylvania. CrossFit gyms, I'm going to Albuquerque next week. CrossFit gyms, Albuquerque. Bodybuilding gyms, Albuquerque. Powerlifting gyms, Albuquerque. Globo gyms, Albuquerque. And then you just keep narrowing off of that. Where are you going? It might take you 20 minutes, but you find a really good gym. You might meet some people. And then also for making sure that you should always have your shoes. You should always have an extra pair of underwear. You should always have your bands with you. And if you can travel with that, you should be able to train anywhere. And one big factor that I also think, this goes back to the supersets and optimizing your time, is that a lot of people, when they're traveling, they'll be like, well, I don't have access to my barbell, so I'm not going to lift. Dude, just go to the freaking gym and squat. Like, just squat. And it's like, do some interesting stuff. It doesn't need to be like this super creative, like, just go in and do some body weight work. That's it. With all the doping and weightlifting, should it be on the Olympics till things are cleaned up? I would say I think that it should be on the Olympics. I think that oftentimes I think one of the big factors is that I'm going to switch this over. I think it should be on the Olympics. Look at this video. I should have been shaving my head back then. Yeah, I think the discussion about should weightlifting be in the Olympics, I think it should be.
What's up, everybody? It's Dane Miller from GarageStrength.com, and if this is your first
Don't forget to have your peak strength app to cultivate your power.
Athlete, you want to be more explosive.
Look at that shot.
You want to become stronger.
There's Kate. She just had her meet last week.
You don't want to take any days off. Make sure that you like, you subscribe, and you ring that notification bell so we can help you.
This is when we used to do the plug in the beginning, I guess.
Okay, so oftentimes when we're traveling,
yeah, I think that
don't want to do anything.
The discussion with weightlifting, I think it's not necessarily around the actual sport. It's more like, dude, test these teams really, really hard and stop getting paid off. That's really the problem here. It's like these
work and then follow that up with some unilateral work.
There's a lot of corrupt officials that are just getting bought out and hiding these things.
I'm gonna get some.
I don't know. Pisses me off. This is down in the Dominican Republic, actually.
But I'm never actually getting out of
takes time over time over time. I'm over 40 and I'm the strongest I've ever been, excluding my vertical and 100 meter time. I've been lifting since 9th grade. 100% Chris. How would you do a change of direction session? That's a really good question. Prisoner squats on this one. There you go.
Leads to my quads getting that nice extension through that.
Let's see. I had one exercise in here.
Boom. Okay. So I'm getting some dynamic work.
I had 2 cameras. There we go.
That wasn't as good.
Even plyometrics in the hotel.
There we go. So the thing is with that side drop.
Man, even this video's only got 5,000 views. That stinks. I actually like that video a lot. It's like a genuinely interesting video that I feel like it's a topic that not a lot of people do. Maybe for a reason. Okay, so I like this question. how would you do a change of direction session? I'm going to walk you through that whole aspect. Okay, so first I like to warm up trunk control. Okay, so we might do a plank with the kettlebell slide. We might do, like today, we had a change of direction workout, sat on a glute ham, pressed a plate back, warm up the hips, warm up the abs. Okay, you might do like real slow walrus. Then the next thing, okay, now we want to do a general warm up for the specific areas of the session. So now we're going to do warm up the glutes, warm up the quads, warm up the ankles, make sure we got mobility. So we could do, let's say, side band walks, let's say single leg squats, let's say sled push, something like that, right? Just easy, very easy. So that's the next part of the warm up. Then the final part of the warm up, now we're going to warm up the neurological aspects. So now we're going to start to smash a little bit more. We're going to start to be more explosive. We're going to look at this and say, all right, I want to be a little bit twitchier right now. How can I get into this workout now and start to smash right away? So I'm waking up the nervous system. What I like to do then is say, okay, based off of the sport, if I'm in football and they're training for a prep for a combine, we're going to do something like shuttles and the 3-cone first, because those are technical drills that are going to help change a direction, and they're also going to be tested by coaches at a combine. Okay, so we would do that first. Now, the other aspect that you could argue is, say, if you have another sport where there's not a combine, I would focus on acceleration as fast as I can accelerate and teach the angles, teach the load, teach where the pressure needs to be in the hands and the strides, the stride length, how to feel with recovery. So you might do like 10-yard sprints for 8 sets. Okay, then the next thing that you can do is 5-10-5 shuttles. Focusing on the technique of the 5-10-5. The next thing that you might be able to do there would be like a plyometric, like side band jump, something like side band jump, focusing on changing direction rapidly. And then one thing that I would like to finish with would be either like right now we're doing a 3-cone, or you could finish with like bilateral side jumps. So like a forward jump to a side jump to a forward jump to a side jump. Bilateral, or you could do single leg hops, side to side single leg hops into karaoke, something like that. That's like a general change of direction workout that I think would go a long way in most sports. Eli is saying that he's currently at the gym. Pogo program is calling for 4x4 pogo jumps. Is that single legs? If so, I'm weak as F with single leg pogos. Should I include single leg valve raises and rib raises to help? I don't know what leg valve raises, single leg valve raises. I don't know what that is. Single leg pogos are tough. Yes, it would be 4 sets on each side. Or be careful there. It might be pogo jumps into hurdle hops where you're doing 1, 2, 3, 4 pogos into 1, 2, 3, 4 hurdle hops. So just be aware that when you're discussing that could be pogos into hurdle hops. Keith, will you make it possible to adjust the workout times and peak? Not always I got time to do the... Yeah. In the future, I don't know, Keith, if you noticed, we have that problem submission form. One thing I think that we could do on the problem submission form is that you could submit an idea on there, and you could say, look, like sometimes I wish that I could do a partial program. Sometimes I wish that I could move that to the next day, and you could actually comment that, like, is there a way that, like, if you only do half of the program, that when you would go back in, the app triggers you and says, hey, yesterday you only did half the program. Can I finish yesterday's workout or whatever? Okay, so Eli, I would do single leg pogo jumps. Peak has never had enough faith in me to make me do single leg pogos. So single leg pogos too, Andrew, that might be based off your age, because there are certain exercises like I will not get because of my age. And Tib raises, my Lord, this autocorrect is killing me. Yeah, so that was going back to Eli, I think that was, right? Yeah. Tib raises. So Tib raises and calf raises. Yeah, I think that's fine. Just tell Trevor about it on Discord. Don't say that. Don't say that. Trevor's going to get heated. Okay, so optimizing your time in the gym. Let's get back over. Let's try and bring this into that big time conclusion, the overall thesis. 1, if you're struggling to get time to work out, realize you could go on the assault bike and do 2 Tabatas, 8 minutes, you did a workout, and that's great. And Rhonda Patrick will break down research where literally if you're doing 8 minutes of cardio, there's a positive benefits. There's positive benefit from that. Okay? So if you don't have time, stop lying to yourself. You can do 8 to 10 minutes. You can do 12 minutes. You can do 15 minutes. You have that time. I know you have that time. Everybody has it. Everyone, literally everyone has that. Okay? Now, the next thing is that if you're in a crunch time, I see Junior in the chat. If you're in a crunch time and it's like, all right, I only have so much time to get it done. Let's say you only have an hour to go do a weightlifting session. Shorten the rest, make it on the minute, make it a goal. Like, okay, I want to do 8 sets on the minute and I don't want to have any misses. I want to do 5 doubles on the minute 25 for clean and jerks. I don't want to have any misses. I want to recover with my front foot. Put that time constraint now on it and follow it precisely. The interesting thing here too is that even when volume is equated over program to program, that you need like a minute and a half recovery. That's it. That's literally it. I've seen powerlifter in the gym for resting 5 to 10 minutes. And there's a paper that just came out. Let me see if I can find that quick. That having the traditional rest periods of 5 to 10 minute rest periods, it literally doesn't benefit them. Let me see if I can find that 5 to 10 minute rest. Hopefully I can find this. Traditional cluster set configurations. I think the big factor is that, these are all rest periods. I can't find any. Post-activation potentiation. Ooh, this is an interesting paper. See, this is my downfall right here, and I know I'm a little scatterbrained right now, but I think it comes down to going back to this. It's like you have the time, eliminate a lot of your rest, make outside goals that are based around like how many, can I improve my technique here? Can I get 8 sets of back squat done? And then finally get creative. Use supersets, use those alternating supersets, back squat with a dumbbell incline bench, an RDL paired with a pull-up or something like that, or a dumbbell bench. And I think that that's going to help you just work on that. I work full-time in the Navy, so no excuses for Eli. Keith is saying, Andrew still thinks he's 18. I stopped making excuses and began sprint training before lifting sessions. That's great. Tom Mid is saying, best exercise for takedown and having strong hamstrings and hips. We just did a whole video on hamstrings, but for a takedown defense, I would say like explosive kettlebell, hang power snatches, anything like that. Let's see. Power lifters, they're afraid of cardio. Now, I want to show you guys this one. This is an interesting one. Video reaction. Okay, look at this. Purpose of this study was to examine post-activation potentiation on 50-meter freestyle national level swimmers. So they took traditional. I just wanted to go over this for fun. Look at this. This is a great one. Repeated measures, a repeated measures analysis of variance was shown. When data were split into gender in the male group, the UBPAP, and that is going to be the upper body post-activation potentiation group, elicited significantly slower time. So if you do upper body post-activation potentiation, you will not help your swimming, especially when compared to RSWU, which is going to be the traditional race-specific warm-up. Let's go back here. UBPAP and CPAP. What is CPAP? Combined post-activation potentiation. These findings suggest that individualized post-activation potentiation warm-up may be a valuable tool. However, the PU, man, these are a lot of acronyms here. The pull-up may not be an appropriate PAP stimulus on its own. So don't do pull-ups before you go in the pool because you're probably going to swim slower. I don't know. You guys just saw my drive. All right, let's get back over here. I'm just clicking on a whole bunch of bad buttons. Keith, I feel 18 when Dane demos plyos. Come on, am I that bad at demoing plyos? Am I that bad? Most of my rest times are 2 to 3 minutes. That's big. Hit those 2 to 3 minute rest periods, maybe a little bit shorter. As a power lifter, I never rest more than 5 minutes as a master's power lifter, except for 2 weeks before. I think that's fine because, Chris, you're probably also pulling out some of those accessories. I'm a soccer player in peak strength. You recommend 3 trainings per week. Can you explain why? So this is from Mateo. Mateo, I would say the biggest thing there is that you're likely doing a leg power day, you're going to do an upper body day, and then you're going to do like an athlete/impulse day. And I think the big thing to remember is that if we can increase your counter movement jump, if we can increase your clean and your back squat, you will have faster 10 and 30-yard sprint times. So if we can get more volume doing that, that's going to lead to faster times out on the field. Okay. So soccer players, I believe, should train 3 days a week in the weight room, but they should be focused on leg strength and impulse development. Impulse in the realm, on the spectrum to a shorter time period, higher force, short time frame. Okay. I think that's like some of the big factors that I would recommend. Just giving Dane the business. That hotel plyo jump looked decent. If Dane looks not that bad, yeah. Jeff, thank you for joining in. I've got to get downstairs, start coaching some weightlifting. Hope you guys enjoyed this week's live chat, live discussion. Let us know, too, in the comments if you guys want anything specific for the comments, and we do the community polls to take on what areas or topics you want us to cover to make it a little bit more effective. Until next time, peace.